Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Joel Hunter, host of Power Talks, empowering you through the voice of truth. On today's program, we have three well-known business people in our region, and some known beyond that. And I want to talk about business as ministry. And so let me introduce these folks to you. To my immediate left is John Rivers, who has a barbecue ministry. I love that phrase. He started out, he was a business person. He started out, as the story goes, putting on a barbecue in his backyard for someone whose child had cancer as a fundraiser. And then he kind of expanded from there into fundraisers for charities and churches and other good causes. Always trying to conquer the secret formula for the perfect barbecue, but has now become the leader of probably the premier barbecue restaurant in Florida. There are many of them, and it's named Four Rivers, both for the four rivers that came out of the Garden of Eden and for his wife and children.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
and so we're tickled to have him here. He's a great believer, great brother. Mark Goldstein is beside him. Mark is the president of the Central Florida Christian Chamber of Commerce. He also runs a business consulting firm called On the Mark, and has helped over 500 companies really increase their productivity, as well as, I'm sure, their care for people. And on the end is a very good friend of mine, Nathan Clark, whose wife did not go into labor this morning, but they are expecting their sixth child. They have a wonderful family. And Nathan is in the business of flavored marshmallows and favored employees. Do you see how I did that?
I did.
Nice.
Well done.
Wonder Made is his business, and it's one of the really cool stories of all time, because they were really cheap in the gifts they could give each other at Christmas time. What was it? What was the limit?
Oh, it was like $20.
$20. They weren't going to spend beyond $20, and he got his wife a
Candy thermometer.
And they just thought they'd try to make some marshmallows with some flavor. Yeah. And now this thing is just one of the most wonderful organizations. He's also the director of technological innovation at Northland Church. And so he does both the church and business ministry thing. But I want to talk to you. Let me start out with you, Mark. You have a role in our community that deals mainly with Christian business people.
Right.
How do you try to help them mix in kind of the gospel and the life in business?
I think helping them understand that they're not just entrepreneurs, they're biblical entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. And with that, you have a multiple bottom line. Mm-hmm. You definitely want to be successful financially. Mm-hmm. I mean, because you minister out of abundance. Mm-hmm. So you have to have some abundance to do that. But as Christians, we also have a responsibility to the community we serve, to help create a footprint, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, shelter the homeless. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But then finally, to have, to understand marketplace ministry, that we are salt and light. And yes, we want to feed, clothe, shelter, but we also should be excited to have them as a neighbor in heaven. Yeah. And so to help business people understand what marketplace ministry looks like and the responsibility Jesus has given us to partner with him.
Yeah. Now, just because I know they're going to wonder, how long have you been doing this, the president of the chamber?
About 9 years.
Okay, 9 years. Okay. And how long have you been in business, helping businesses grow?
Probably about 40.
40
about
years.
40 years.
Okay, very good. Well, that begs the question. Let's go to the other end of the spectrum. Although, Nathan, you're not all that young, you know.
40 years is longer than I've been alive. I got a lot to learn from you.
I guess you are all that young. Tell us about Wonder Made. First of all, just the short version of how this thing got started. I mean, how did it go from let's make some flavored marshmallows to where you are today?
You know, it's funny. The real short answer is, man, God had a funny story for us lined up. But it turns out we made the first batch and they were the best marshmallows we'd ever had. And that's weird. It doesn't usually happen with anything that the first time you do it, it'd be better than what you can go and find on the market. And so we made them, we gave them away, we brought them to Northland all the time, put them in the break room, and people loved them. We loved them, and somebody came up and said, hey, can I buy some? I kind of sat back, I'm like, that's weird. You know, it's usually actually hard to get people to give you their money and for someone to volunteer it. But it turned out that there were a lot of people who loved the idea of these flavored marshmallows, and a lot of people who would want to buy them, who did want to buy them, and then a lot of people who wanted to tell the story because it was so unusual. So it was really just such a contagious story that over the weeks and the months we've been in, you know, hundreds of magazines, all sorts of national TV. We've hung out with Martha Stewart, and time again, it's because people have just resonated with the idea of a product that they had never encountered in a significant way. Yeah. You know, it wasn't just okay; it was actually intended to be great, and that just sticks with people. You know,
I'm going to come to John in just a moment, but I can't get this out of my mind. I know how you run your company. I know how you care for your employees. And you gave a TED Talk one time that said kind of the secret ingredient is love. How do you mix that in with business? You
know, the experience most people have in life is that they are only treated in regards to the value they offer to whoever they're interacting with, whether it be a business or a individual. You know, if you're a company, somebody walks in the door and they know that they're worth $5 because that's how you treat them, or $20. Or if you're lucky and you're buying a car, you get treated like you're worth 20 or 30 grand. But that's a terrible way to live, to only be viewed as what your transactional value is. And so we try to take the perspective of, man, you're made in the image of God. You are worth an infinite amount of money. You could never give me what I should treat you like. And so let's just start by treating people like they're worth $1 million. And then we'll see how things fall, and we're going to trust God for His providence and for the abundance that you need to operate out of. But, you know, on our side of the equation, let's just treat people like they're worth everything, and see what that does to the community, to the people who walk in our doors.
Yeah. John, I love how your story starts, you know, with the barbecue and, you know, wanting to help out people who have a need at the time. But I also love this next season you're going into. I'm part of a board for Florida Hospital, the Community Health Impact Coalition or Commission or whatever it is, I can't remember. But we hear different ideas of people in the community who have ways that they can increase the health of the community, literally the health of the community. And I was startled to see John come in and make a presentation. This was the coolest idea. This is why I wanted you on. You're obviously a great brother and a great example and a wonderful family man. You're crazy about your family and crazy about your wife. I love that. But you've had this heart for people that don't have the advantages that some of us do. And so tell us about this new venture, Four Roots Farm. Mm-hmm. It's about helping people in neighborhoods or sections of town to have maybe some fresh vegetables that didn't have them before, or training kids. Mm-hmm. Tell us about it. You can do it better than I can.
You did a very nice job with it. It is funny. You wouldn't think that barbecue would have a transition into farming and agriculture and a focus on health. But Monica and I, we sat back and we looked at the wonderful gift that we have with the business. And we said, you know, what's going to be that lasting impact that's going to outlive us? It's going to outlive the company. You know, where can we leave a true footprint in a way that helps people long term? So we looked at all the wonderful assets that we had, and the funny thing that we came up with was actually we buy a lot of produce. And we started thinking about it. Well, is there a way to leverage that purchase of produce in a way that could solve a need in the community? And what we found when we looked in the community is just really some atrocities that are happening. I think it's 60% of the kids in Orange County they don't have 3 full meals a day. Actually, most of them only have 1 meal a day. And just the average produce that we have that's on our plate today, we found out travels 1,872 miles on average before it gets to our plate. And you think about the nutritional loss, then you think about the economic loss when 111 farmers are going bankrupt per week in our country. So here was a need that we found and an asset that we controlled, and we said, let's put something together. So we went to Orange County Public School to Dr. Jenkins, and this was 2.5 years ago, and it was just an idea. It's just a stirring in the heart. What can we do with this? And we said, well, let's go ahead and start investing in building out agriculture programs at the college or at the high school level, just to really start teaching the kids about growing and get them excited about it. That has now, we have Ocoee up and running. We're getting ready to break ground in just a couple of weeks at Edgewater High School. And we just met with Barbara this morning on finding the number 3 high school. Well, that's good from an education perspective, but we said, how can that truly make an impact? So I said, if I've got $3 million of purchases of produce that I do, and I could do so much good with that, are there other people like-minded and like-hearted in the community that don't want to profit from this, but use that blessing we have to help others? Florida Hospital is the first that came to mind. We went and we sat down with them, and they said, absolutely, let's join forces. That's another, 5 or 6 million. Then you take another 5 or 6 million from Orange County Public School. All of a sudden, we've aggregated over $10 million of purchases. Now, you take those purchases, we said, let's build a farm, an agricultural center where we're producing this produce on our own. We're buying it ourselves, so we're sustaining the model just by our own purchases. We're not relying on any outside sources. Let's use this to get fresh produce to the kids, and let's use it as an education tool so that we can actually run school, run classes, and teach local farmers how to stay in business with this. So, it all goes back to just using, the gifts that God gave us. I learned a lesson a long time ago. I used to think, to do God work or do mission work, you'd have to go overseas to China and Mexico and Kenya, all these different places. And I learned a long lesson ago that may be some people's calling, but I think it's everybody's calling to bring God into where we actually are today.
Absolutely.
And then think about how to use that platform we have to make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember, I may have said this while you were in the room in your presentation the other day, but when I was growing up, we had kids with the blue corduroy jackets on, future farmers of America, And this is training kids to learn what it's like to grow something and be profitable with it. And business, it's just awesome. Mark, what is, when you help businesses out, how do you help them increase productivity by the way they treat people? Nathan was talking about this is really key, and most businesses over a period of time just kind of relapse into the mechanics. This is, I got X number of widgets, we got to get them out the door, we got to increase sales, we got to, and people, both employees and customers, begin to become just, ways that either can increase or decrease productivity. How do you help people continue to pay attention to people?
I think we live in a society that people are just lonely. They're concentrating on their devices, watching TV, not really communicating with each other. And I think, people just want to be heard. It's said, and I'm sure you know this, that if somebody shows up at your church and they hear their name 7 times, they're going to come back. So for an employer, just realizing that your employees, your customers, clients, vendors are people. People that are probably lonely, people that want a relationship, and people that want to be treated special.
Yeah. Nathan, you give, I know you give training to your employees, as to how to relate to the folks that walk through the door and all that kind of stuff. And I also know that people who listen to this program are trying to think, okay, what can I learn in my life about the way I treat people not necessarily for my business, but just personally. How do you train your employees?
We stumbled into something that resonated with the staff at one point because we tried this mall kiosk thing. It was just the worst. I mean, from a business perspective, it was terrible. But we were dying because trying to give samples out, and when you're in the mall, if somebody has a sample, how far away can I run from them? So it was not working. and I realized, hey, instead of taking this from the perspective of us having marshmallows to give, what if we just treat that kiosk like it's a worth conference station? That our job every day, day in and day out, is how much worth can I put into someone through the way that I interact and treat them? Wow. By remembering their name, by remembering their face, by the way we engage, and not, sales are important for every business, but instead of chasing the sale, what if you just pursued them? Again, just in the model of how God pursues us. You don't wait for them to love you first or for them to regard you in esteem, but you always be alert. You put your phone down. You look to engage, and so we do that in our store now as a Worth Conference station, and we try to do that with our staff. How do we always lean in even before they do? Our family motto is everyone makes mistakes, and when you walk into encounters knowing that people are going to make mistakes, you're not as surprised. You're able to meet with them, walk with them through those mistakes, and just those little steps we found make big differences.
That's good.
There's a saying that we've used a long time ago that they will act the way you treat them. Mm-hmm. And if you treat them with love and respect, that's the way they'll treat each other and the guest. Mm-hmm. The other thing we learned too is their level of respect and the way that they speak to the guests and enthusiasm about the brand can never exceed that of ours. So if we have to walk that walk and set that example, and then they'll follow from it.
Yeah.
And that's a great point. We have what's called a serve, don't sell mentality. Oh, yeah. A lot of times you go to chambers of commerce and it's very transactional. It's how can I get as much business as I can and get out of here kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Well, the way we look at it is that we do business people we trust. We trust people we get to know. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't happen with a 30-second elevator speech and a business card. Mm-hmm. So what we encourage folks to do is get to know each other's story. And when you meet with one-on-ones, don't try to figure out how you can sell that person, but figure out how you can serve them. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, the transaction goes away and real relationship is built and bottom line increases too.
Yeah. I love that. John, you have a scale of business that not many people ever realize. And so it's easier to think of somebody walking into a marshmallow store and treating them nicely. I mean, that takes training too. I mean, because the business every day is naturally desensitizing. But on a corporate scale, that would be really difficult. How do you make sure that the quality of human relations matches the quality of the brisket?
And that's a great way to put it too. There's the two biggest focuses that we have. One is the people that we have on our team, and two is the product. And just that consistency. The product is a process. It's a procedure. The people, it's not. There's emotions. And the word that both of these gentlemen have used is the appropriate one. It's a relationship. And just like the relationship we have with the guests, any relationship you're in goes two ways. And if you think about it, if you've ever been in a relationship that's gone sour, that you're just taking everything, it's going to be short term. If you're in think of your wife and your kids, you pour into them as much as they pour back into you. Yeah. And if you look at both the guest in the same perspective, the community that we serve, and then the team. And the team, if they ever feel like they're replaceable, and we've done a bad job as the leaders of it, we have to show them as much time and attention and love as we do the product. Matter of fact, every year my CFO keeps reminding me of it. We have historically always spent at least 2 to 3 times more in training than we have in advertising. Wow. And it's intentional.
That's really good insight. Okay, let me ask you a really prickly question here.
This one's for Mark.
I'll start with you, Mark. But there are some pretty irritating people out there. I mean, people have a lot of problems, you know, and you want to cut them some slack, but there are some people who are just irritating, and they visit all these businesses and they want to, you know, complain, and that's kind of how they get their power, and so it's not even like we have a solution we need to solve. It's kind of like, I want to be in your face. And how do you advise? You've been in the consulting business a long time. You've consulted with a lot of businesses. How do you advise people to handle chronically irritating customers?
Run.
Okay.
You know, I tell you, you know, Paul talks about the thorn in the flesh, and maybe that's what these folks are. You know, I don't know that there's, you know, a pat answer for that, but loving the unlovable, just there's some intentionality there, and just praying for grace.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what we share with our team, Mark? We share, given today, you can grant two things. There's going to be good things that happen to you, and there's going to be bad things that happen to you. Good people and bad people. Said that part's not going to change. You can't control those, but the one thing you can control is how you allow it to affect you. And how you allow it to affect you, that resonates with everybody else on the team. And you know, if you're not in a situation that you're passionate about, I always tell people, bring passion into that situation, and it'll turn it around quickly.
Nathan, what do you have to add to that? You're one of the least perturbable people I know.
Yeah.
You just always seem to have a buoyant spirit, and I know your life has to have problems like everybody else.
Yeah. Well, I think that I want to solve everything. I have a natural deficiency. You know, I'm a solutions-oriented kind of guy, and but you can't do that with people. You know, the problems that they bring into your life aren't for you to solve. It's for you to be present with them despite those problems, and it's for you to offer transformational love despite it. And that is a hard thing to do when you're operating out of health and fullness, much less to teach your staff how to do, especially if it's in the middle of a rush, you know, if it's at an inconvenient time. How do you do that? But I think it just comes down to, like you said, Mark, loving the unlovable and being willing to be present, knowing it will have a cost.
Yeah.
Because you can't control that bad things are going to happen, but you can be willing and let your team know it's okay that you're going to pause and time out, that productivity is going to dip because you need to be present with someone who's in a situation that you can't even solve.
Yeah, that's really good. Let me ask you one more question. We just have a few minutes left, but on the occasion of you adding to your family again, what do you want your kids to learn from the way you've conducted your business?
You know, we named ourselves after Scripture. You know, everyone is fearfully and wonderfully made, and that's where Wonder Made gets its name from. Right. And I don't think that there's anything more significant to remember day in and day out that we are all made in the image of God, and that means that every person you interact with deserves to be treated like they are made with God's wonder, even if there's deficiency and problems in the midst of it. So we just want our kids to get that, to see people as the image of God, and then to remember, if we're in the image of God, that we need to be creating as well. That's what God does, you know, and we don't need to view everything as transactional. No matter what you're doing, homework, marshmallows, we do ice cream too. All sorts of stuff.
That.
No matter what we're making, we need to bring that creative element, the idea of putting wonder into what we do, even if we're just doing the books that day, and to treat things as opportunity.
Yeah. Anybody got anything to add to that? You want your kids to learn?
Oh, absolutely. There's always an opportunity. There's always hope. And, you know, in the way that you choose to go about it makes the biggest difference in the outcome of it.
Yeah. Well, I can't thank you guys enough for coming on, John and Mark and Nathan. This business is not something I'm fully acquainted with, but it's just another type of ministry that I think all of us have in our life. All of us are about the business of life. and the same principles apply. And I loved your phrase, service before sales, or but service instead of sales. The sales will take care of themselves. That's exactly right. And so I want to thank all of you for not only for what you're doing for the community, but for what you're adding to raise the level of worthwhileness of human interaction when it comes to business and the business community. We're out of time, but I want to thank all of you as well for joining us. Remember, everything we do represents Jesus Christ. We're ambassadors for Christ in this world. And so therefore, when we look at people and we're trying to serve them, no matter whether that's through a business or through some other aspect of our relationship with them, remember they're to come first because Jesus put us first. Jesus gave his own power up so that we could be empowered. So remember that these discussions are just that today's was just among us, but we'd love to see you continue the discussions at home and go one step further, get involved. Because when power talks, you are empowered through the voice of truth. See you next time.